There's a quiet tragedy we rarely notice. The more a person thinks, the less they actually live. Everyone has felt it. One tiny worry spirals into a storm, and suddenly it feels like your entire life is on the verge of collapse. And the oddest part? Society treats this as a sign of responsibility, as if mental exhaustion were some kind of badge of honor. But what if it's the opposite? What if overthinking is stealing your clarity, your intuition, and your strength? What if maturity isn't about thinking more, but thinking less? At first glance, it sounds absurd. We were raised on the idea that thinking carefully is always the key. But no one explained that overthinking is like driving with the parking brake on. Lots of noise, lots of tension, lots of heat, and no real movement. And that's where no mind comes in, not as an escape, but as a discovery. A quiet internal space where thought makes room for perception. A place where life stops feeling like a battle against yourself and begins to flow the way it was meant to. A silent point inside you that can change everything. And here's the surprising part. You don't need to become a monk or a samurai or move to a mountain. Freedom begins in a detail, the moment the mind stops inventing problems that don't exist. Today, you're going to understand why thinking less isn't a loss. It's a gain. A gain in strength, clarity, action, and above all, in life. In Zen monasteries, life revolves around things that look almost too simple from the outside. Breathing, walking, sweeping the floor. But behind that simplicity, no mind is born. A silent awareness that sees everything without clinging to anything. It's as if each practitioner is living inside a laboratory of consciousness, using the ordinary tasks of life as experiments. They train to live with presence, to watch what the mind does when it stops distracting itself. And slowly, they discover that no mind isn't emptiness. It's a very rare kind of internal freedom. Zen masters say the mind is like a mirror. When it's covered with ego, opinion, and anxiety, everything reflected is distorted. But when the mirror is polished by presence, it begins to show reality as it truly is. You still have thoughts, but you don't have to believe all of them. You still feel fear, but you're not paralyzed by it. That clear mirror is the heart of no mind. A mind that sees without unnecessary interference from a wounded ego or the urge to control everything. And this is where letting go of ego comes in. Instead of trying to control every breeze of life, the practitioner learns to become like water, adapting, flowing, moving around obstacles instead of fighting them. Life is like a falling leaf. The more you try to control the wind, the more beauty you miss. But when the mind softens, the world becomes full of details that were invisible before. Sounds, smells, intuitions, new possibilities. This state of presence might seem distant from battlefields, yet it's exactly what connects Zen to the next figure in our story. Musashi wasn't the kind of warrior you understand through logic alone. He didn't dominate because he was the strongest, but because he was the emptiest in the best sense of the word. While other fighters entered duels full of fear, heavy strategy, and mental noise, Musashi arrived light, as if his entire mind had gone silent. He believed that when the mind is quiet, the body knows what to do. It sounds mystical, but it's actually simple. When you think too much, you freeze. When you think less, you perceive more. One of the greatest examples was his duel against Sasaki Kojiro, considered one of the finest swordsmen of his era. Musashi arrived late on purpose, broke Kojiro's emotional rhythm, and stepped into the fight with complete presence. No fear of the future, no replay of the past. Just that instant. The decisive strike didn't come from complex planning, it came from clarity. Action without hesitation. Intuition without ego. Like the story of the bird he once observed. Others would debate whether to approach it, feed it, or analyze it. Musashi simply acted directly, naturally, as if life spoke faster than thought. And the same principle shows up in his art. His brushstrokes were empty of ego but full of truth. No showing off, no overthinking, no trying to impress. Just presence. He understood that overthinking is like mist. The more you strain to see through it, the less you see. But when the mind stops struggling, the mist dissolves. This essence, quiet, unforced action, connects Musashi to someone who lives no mind in a completely different world. Now imagine there's a man called Satoshi, a simple man who surprises precisely because he never tries to stand out. He lives a kind of gentle simplicity that almost feels rebellious in a world obsessed with urgency, noise, and endless ambition. His life looks small from the outside, tending a tiny garden behind his apartment, sweeping the same street every morning, brewing tea in silence before the sun rises. But in reality, it's enormous because he does everything with full presence. Routine isn't a burden, it's a ceremony. Every gesture becomes a quiet offering to life, as if he's whispering, "I'm here," and it's in this simplicity that no mind appears in its softest form. The most striking part about Satoshi is how his stillness becomes a mirror. He rarely speaks, almost never shares opinions, and doesn't try to teach anything. Yet anyone who watches him is forced to confront their own inner noise. His silence amplifies what's happening inside you. When he walks home under the evening trees, noticing the shifting light between the leaves, that fleeting beauty the Japanese call kamaribi, he reveals something most people never see, the extraordinary hiding inside the ordinary. And that's where the unexpected bridge appears. One man, Musashi, lived no mind in the fire of battle. Satoshi lives it in the coolness of everyday life. Different worlds, same presence. Both live without resistance. At first glance, Musashi and the fictitious Satoshi seem to belong to completely different universes. One forged in duels and danger, the other built from quiet routines and humble rituals. But when you look deeper, both embody the same root: absolute presence. What unites them is their lack of attachment to outcomes. Musashi prevailed because he wasn't chained to expectation. He responded to the moment. Satoshi finds peace for the same reason. He doesn't argue with the day, doesn't cling to what might have been, doesn't force life to match his plans. Both reveal a state where action arises without inner resistance. Life stops feeling like an opponent and becomes a silent companion. And the heart of their connection is this: both accepted impermanence. They understood that nothing lasts, not a warrior's victory, not the brief shimmer of kamaribi. That acceptance creates an inner space, a tiny gap between one thought and the next. And inside that gap lives no mind. It's not found in swords or in rituals, but in that subtle place where life moves effortlessly. A place the modern world needs more than ever. Today, the average mind lives in battle not against swords but against itself. Overthinking has become a cultural addiction. People wake up thinking about what they haven't done, spend the day planning what may never happen, and fall asleep replaying conversations that already ended. It's like carrying a noisy narrator everywhere you go. No mind becomes the antidote. Less rumination, more intuition. Less mental digging, more natural clarity. This applies to anxiety and analysis paralysis too. Modern life turned every decision into a minefield. Career, course, relationship, message, investment. With so many options, everyone wants to predict the entire future before taking a single step. No mind breaks this trap. It invites you to act like water, not forcing direction, but finding passage. In practice, it means taking one small decision a day without over-reviewing it, doing something simple without calculating every outcome, allowing yourself to make mistakes without turning them into identity. The greatest gift of no mind is recovering the now. A noisy mind is turbulent water. Everything becomes distorted. A calm mind reveals the bottom clearly. No mind returns that calm, and with calm comes freedom. 3 practices to bring no mind into daily life. 1. The breathing reset. Simple people underestimate it. 3 times a day, 1 minute of breath. Slow inhale, hold for 3 seconds. Exhale gently. It wipes the mirror of the mind. People who do this before meetings, classes, or difficult conversations notice the shift immediately. 2. Single tasking. The opposite of hyper-multitasking. Do one thing at a time. cut a fruit, respond to a message, write a paragraph with full attention. The mind aligns. Reducing digital noise multiplies this effect. Removing one app for a day, keeping the phone in another room, turning off notifications. 3. Observation without judgment. Thoughts come? Let them pass like clouds. Dishes to wash? Turn it into meditation. Walking to the store? Notice the textures, sounds, colors. Accepting the fact everything changes removes enormous weight. Letting go of control liberates the mind from predicting the whole future. And this is where people often misunderstand no mind. The 3 great misunderstandings. Misconception 1. No mind is emotional numbness. Not at all. No mind doesn't kill emotion. It removes distortion. You feel more clearly without unnecessary storms. Numbing yourself is not wisdom. It's escape. Misconception 2. No mind means lack of preparation. Musashi trained relentlessly. Satoshi is disciplined in every detail. No mind isn't chaos. It's skill without tension. Study, train, prepare, then let go. Misconception 3. No mind is turning the brain off. It's the opposite. It's presence without noise. Clarity instead of confusion. Awareness instead of autopilot. When this sinks in, a new kind of internal freedom emerges, the kind most people never even imagine. Everything you've heard only matters if it becomes practice. No mind isn't a poetic idea, it's a different way of breathing, walking, choosing. So ask yourself, what can you do today to think less and live more? Maybe turn off your phone for a few minutes. Maybe do one task with full presence. Maybe notice the path to work as if it were the first time. Small gestures, huge effects. And here's the sincere challenge. For how long will you let your mind make decisions on your behalf? How many chances have you lost because you doubted too long, revised too long, feared too long? Life doesn't wait for you to organize your thoughts. It moves at its own rhythm, and you deserve to move with it. Choose one practice. Try it today. Test it tomorrow. Watch what happens. Sometimes the biggest transformation begins with 5 seconds of silence. Now tell me, which habit will you try first? What resonated with you the most? And if this message opened a clearing in your mind, subscribe and turn on notifications. And keep expanding this space of presence inside you, so you can keep walking with me into the Innerverse.